Welcome, Aquarius, to your in-depth monthly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for July 2026 for the Ascendant, the Sun, or the Moon. Going to share the big strands of the month ahead first. On screen is your event chart as we go into July, always an influential backdrop. I'll unpack that. I'll then go through each of the influences frame by frame to give you a clear picture of what's upcoming in terms of your energy, work, relationships, or finances. As we come into this month, the planet of fortune, Jupiter, is in your sector of relationships for the first time since 2015. What's that all about? We also have your two rulers of Saturn and Uranus right at the heart of things, both very influential. We're going to see the North Node return to your zodiac sign, the true North Node, for the first time since 2009. So that's really, really exciting. And we also have a Jupiter cazimi with Jupiter in Leo, the sign which is ruled by the Sun. So a spectacular end to the month, which also coincides with a full moon in Aquarius. So on the screen now is your event chart as you come into the month. Let's look at the two luminaries first of all. The sun's in the practical sixth house. One of the things that Cancer energy is brilliant at doing is marshalling resources. So that gives you a great chance to do that. It is in an opposition with the moon, but it's a separating opposition because of the full moon which occurred at the end of last month. So you may have a bit of a juggle as you come into this month around your energy. Jupiter's on that seventh house, but you do have Venus in the seventh house, which is delicious in Leo, forging a lovely link to Saturn. So if you are talking to someone and it's a relationship where you both really know where you stand, it's respectful, but also it's warm, it could be sociable as well. You'll really appreciate that. But the other takeout at the start of the month is Mars and Uranus, your modern ruler, in that brilliant, vibrant conjunction in your fifth house, forging a major link back to Pluto in your sign. And they're both linking to Jupiter as well. So I think that more creative, sparkly part of your nature does have a chance to come out. So why might that be a bit difficult? Well, as we go into the month, what happens, Aquarius, is that Neptune, the planet very much to do with imagination, is in a right angle with the Sun. It really peaked at the end of June. You may have found that your physical energy was a bit lower, but also some practicalities in some way may have got in the way of some of your brilliant ideas. And then as the sun moves forwards towards the end of week one, comes into an exact right angle with Saturn. Neptune also goes retrograde on the 7th. So you may just find generally that however much you try, things just seem to be going slower. And part of it could be because Mercury is in retrograde, which began on the 29th of June through to the 23rd. And that may mean that lots of little details and snags come up, which could be frustrating. So, although on the face of it, it looks like a very vibrant start to the month, we actually have got some different contrasting energies. Chiron could also be stirring some issues up around your home, an emotional history which may need to be looked at. However, moving forwards, as I mentioned, Neptune does go into its retrograde on the 7th, but what we do have on the 9th is Venus moving into your 8th house. If you're someone who's really enjoying a relationship and it's getting deeper, I think that's a great portent. But if you're in a relationship where you feel it's a bit stuck, stilted, the clash that Venus creates with Uranus and Mars can be significant. Perhaps that part of your nature that does like to be quite independent and free-spirited can conflict with another part of you or the other person who wants something that's much more all in, much more focused. So that's just something to be mindful of. However, what we do have with Venus moving into the 8th house, if you are wanting to make more from your resources, the chances are you can do so very skillfully. You may even benefit from the good fortune of someone close to you, or it could be in a business situation and Venus in the eighth house. Obviously, Venus in Virgo can be very practical. It's not so romantic, but for you, that could work well once it gets beyond the square to these guys. But on the 13th, we have a Mercury cazimi. That's when the Sun applies to the retreating Mercury, the advancing Sun. Because of Mercury's retrograde, it's known as an inferior conjunction. But if you do need to try to untangle some of the snags that have occurred in the first 2 weeks, it's a great chance to do so. And that brings us to the new moon of the 14th. If you're wanting to get a bit more virtuous about your exercise, your diet, the amount of rest, sleep you get, all of that stuff can really be boosted by that new moon if you want to engage with the details. And that brings us through to week 3. We do have that clash between Venus and these guys. It could mean that you could be attracted to someone who, for whatever reason, you find very hard to ignore, but whether they're actually a person that's right for you or not is another matter. But by the move of the Sun into your 7th house, that's a very strong month ahead for trying to get greater equilibrium and balance, and the give and take of relationships working that much better. And I think one of the greatest parts of relating that gets underestimated is the ability to listen. We all get excited about things, but it is important not just to have the discussion, but actually engage with what someone's really feeling. And that is something that can be good to do with 7th house transits. However, the Sun then does go into an opposition with Pluto in your sign. So there could be a kind of bit of a power battle that plays out. It's one of the most important aspects of the whole year, to be honest. And maybe your need to be very individualistic is going to clash with the Sun and Jupiter's desire for you to be a bit more humanistic. It's not to say that we're not humanistic Aquarius people, but I think there could be a bit of a pinch point. But then the Sun moving into Leo, linking back to initially Uranus and Mars, can be great if you could have a sudden date, a really sparkling connection in a very positive way. So let's not get too bogged down in that opposition with Pluto. The 23rd sees Mercury go direct, so hopefully those tangles continue to unravel. Of course, the post-retrograde shadow does go on through to the 7th of August, which is a factor. That brings us to that big old day, the 26th, the North Node reversing back into Aquarius for the first time for 17 years. The entire cycle of the nodes is 18.6 years. So we have to take it to when the last time the node left Aquarius, which was at the end of the year and a half visit. So that was 2009. So what the North Node's really asking us Aquarius people to do is really have the courage to go for what's right for us as an individual. Because the South Node goes into Leo, so that may be where we may want to perhaps be a bit more, letting things go, maybe a bit of people pleasing. That's what we need to work on releasing, not being so much in that over the next year and a half. But that brings us to that magnificent Jupiter cazimi on the 29th and the full moon in Aquarius. So again, it's a bit like that Pluto opposition with the Sun. It's important to radiate out our individuality. But if we make it all about ourselves and we don't collaborate, it's going to be a lonely old world. So it's a juggle. But I think it's a juggle where there's prospects because of the warmth and generosity of Jupiter in the sign of Leo. And I do genuinely think, because I think that I try to be very truthful, I do genuinely think, because some people have been writing and saying, oh, the South Node's in Leo, it's going to be an awful time. Well, we do have the solar eclipse come in on the 12th of August, and we have Mercury going into Leo. I think the second 6 months of the year can be a time of opportunity. It doesn't mean that relationships are absolutely nailed on to develop, but it's a window of celestial opportunity to engage more actively with others. But one of the things to remember with Jupiter is it can be about philosophies, but it can also be a bit dogmatic and it cannot be a bit overconfident. So just need to keep our feet on the ground. But with Saturn going retrograde also on the 26th, now that is a really major event. So in the following 5 months, anything to do with moving around freely could come under the astral microscope. Last year, I had the rheumatoid flare through some of that. And yeah, it was really, really bad, to be honest. It's much better now, but it was really serious. So Saturn in that third house can ask us, Aquarius people, to rethink some of our beliefs. Maybe we're going to think, do I still need a car if I can be more physically active and walk or cycle? Do I have particular technology that I use or channels that I engage with? Are they really right for me? Because remember, Saturn's about wisdom. It's not just about making life hard, it's about wisdom, but it's also where good things can come from hard work and application. So 5 months from the 26th. I'm going to summarize those 4 areas of vitality, work, relationships, and finances next. Aquarius. Just before I do, I'll reduce the price of my personal horoscope reports. For many years, it was buy 2, get 30% off. Now it's buy 1 and get 3. Because the cost of living increases, trying to make the charts as accessible as possible. So the one you pay for is your life roadmap report, helps us to understand the patterns playing out in our lives, get a much clearer understanding of how to work with those energies better future forwards. 3, totally unique to each person, 12 months transit forecast, and also the Draconic Soul karmic analysis, which helps us to look at life and astrology in a different way. Please see below for more. So, if you've yet to watch your Jupiter into Leo 13-month forecast, please see that on the screen. If you've yet to watch your solstice video, 3 months forecast, please click on the eye, the information eye on the screen to take you to the videos. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, it'd be a pleasure. Please see my testimonials below. If you've yet to sign up for your free daily written horoscope, find your device each morning. That's below too as well. So to summarize, energy. Well, because the sun's in the virtuous 6th house as this month begins, but Mercury's in a retrograde, I think a lot of frustration can come and little niggles could get us water bearers down. So important, particularly with the balance between the more psychological dimension with the Capricorn full moon of the end of last month and the sun, important to try to integrate those energies and not see them as being very separate things. So a chance to improve, particularly with the new moon, but through virtue. As far as relationships are concerned, we're having Jupiter in the 7th house, the sun arriving, Venus there at the start of the month. You'd have to say on the whole, very good. Will that mean a nailed-on connection to someone we really like? No. But it does mean with Mars and Uranus in that very cheeky Gemini combination in the 5th house, that's flirty, but it's also a bit impetuous. So it may see something happen quite quick and be very exciting. Will it be long lasting? Well, that's over to you. So I would say there's more to like than dislike. When it comes to finances, the energy of Mars and Uranus in the 5th house of speculation clashing with the north and south nodes, that needs care. Don't be too free and easy with resources, but Venus can bring rewards with discipline. And then professionally, well, professionally, I think that the ability, which I think Aquarius people do have, to blend hard work and being a much more down-to-earth person with also being very imaginative and engaging with new ideas is really good. But if you're working in a role which is too mundane, I think you may find with Mars and Uranus together, you need to check out and do something different, something that's more challenging. If, however, you work with people that really get that, you know, it's needs to be stimulating and enjoyable and have a bit of banter, then I think you'll do absolutely fine. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Aquarius. Have a great July, all the best, and see you again soon.